How you doing, everybody? It's your boy Wardy, and as you can see, we're back at it talking about the Amazons, and we're also back at it breaking down the latest reports in Mets land, as it came out earlier today that yes, the Mets have trade interest in veteran outfielder Manuel Margot from the Tampa Bay Rays. Now, why exactly do they have interest? Who exactly is Margot, and would this be the right or wrong fit for this Metropolitan team based on potential trade, is what we're about to deep dive. But the reports first came out from Joel Sherman of the New York Post, but a day plus prior to that came out from Michael Marino, who does a phenomenal job as an independent reporter covering all things, not just Mets, but baseball as a whole. Highly implore you all to check him out. Shout out to you, Michael, as always, does such a great job. But Michael did state that yes, the Mets have had substantial discussions of a potential trade with the Rays regarding Margot prior to the Rule 5 draft deadline, which was a couple days ago now. Now that that has come and gone, the trade talks, the interest is still certainly there, not only with the Mets, but also with the Yankees, among a couple more teams. At least 5 to this point that we know are currently connected with the Rays for their veteran outfielders. So I want to know your initial reactions in the comments down below, but more importantly, make sure to smash that like and subscribe button if you enjoy consistent Mets coverage, as this is your #1 source for all your Mets news, rumors, info, all off-season long, all in-season long, and thank you all so much in advance as always. But my initial reaction, this is okay, we are looking at your Mark Canha replacement. That is exactly what I'm thinking. Just like how we discussed in a previous video on 5 Mets free agent targets, one of the players I discussed was Adam Duvall, and what do they have alike? These are both guys that would come in and more that fourth outfielder type slash DH, but more so with Margot, you're not even looking at the DH aspect because he doesn't have power with his game. As you see from the stat line down below, Margot is coming off of, a solid 2023 campaign with the Rays, but don't get it twisted, he is still a player that leaves a little bit to be desired, certainly on the power front, and certainly just on his ability to stay on the field and be a consistent player for you. Margot, in just around 100 games played this past season, 4 home runs, 38 RBIs, a 264 average, and not even a 700 OPS, under a 1 WAR. Defensively, he's pretty solid, and that's exactly what the Mets would be looking at here, and a guy that can handle both center and the corner outfields without a problem defensively, and to provide some contact and just provide some on-base ability for a team that is in desperate need with as much help as possible for the outfield position. So after trading away Mark Canha in season as well, the Mets certainly want to fill that role for that fourth outfielder type that can platoon in certain roles in the outfield. Also, again, if you need to throw them at the DH if needed, but Margot is a unique situation where you don't really see that being the case given his lack of power. And why is he so appealing to a Mets team? Well, there are reasons why multiple clubs have interest in Margot, because he does fit the bill in a lot of ways as that fourth outfielder type. And should he just be a fourth outfielder type acquisition where he's getting, not necessarily, completely limited playing time, but it will fluctuate day to day based on matchups and certainly the health of the respective club. And with the Mets having all this uncertainty in their outfield as is when it comes to health, not only with Starling Marte, but also Jeff McNeil wanting to make sure he stays fresh, whether he's playing in left field or at second base, and not having Mark Canha now, there are a lot of holes in this Mets roster, and it certainly begins there in that outfield, if not the starting rotation and bullpen. They got to fix a lot of things here. The outfield certainly needs its help, and Margot can come in and certainly help in that regard as your fourth outfielder type. And this is why I don't have necessarily an issue with this should the trade happen. One, as long as the Mets don't give up an absolute haul for him, which why would they? He doesn't have that type of trade value. But two, as long as the Mets still prioritize adding more offense this offseason, which I fully anticipate them to do. They have been connected to multiple names, rumblings out there, and Michael did note a name to keep an eye on is Teoscar Hernandez, who we'll be discussing in his own right in a separate video in the near future, so make sure you're chiming in for that. But yeah, Manuel Margot, again, not a lot to love here. There's quite a bit to be desired, but for what the Mets need, they need both depth, they need stars, they need everything in between. So it's okay to address those areas as long as addressing that area isn't necessarily the end-all be-all. If the Mets find themselves trading for Manuel Margot and he is 100% playing every single day in the outfield, then justifiably so, us Mets fans aren't going to be too pleased with that, including myself, knowing that there are certainly better upgrades out there in the free agent and trade market alike for a Mets team that is certainly trying to be a contender for 2024 to at least push for playoffs. Not saying World Series aspirations, even though that's what every team has, but just pushing to make playoffs, because we have found out over the past couple of years that all it takes is to get into playoffs and anything can happen from there, right? So that's why it's important for this Mets team to still put up a very respectable team on paper for the 2024 season and then 2025 and beyond from that. So as a fourth outfielder type, I really don't see an issue here. And what is one of the perks of having Manuel Margot is he knows how to spread the ball, certainly knows how to spread for opposite field. That is something that the Mets in great ways struggle with. I felt mightily last season with guys that are normally the guys who be able to spread the field, go opposite, whether that's Jeff McNeil, whether that's Pete Alonso, or to a lesser degree, utility guys like Luis Yorme. I mean, the Mets have had a plethora of guys that really struggle to hit the ball and spread it all over, aside from pulling it to the left side side if you're a righty batter, and of course if you're a lefty batter, pulling it to the right side. And that Jeff especially did plenty last year, and not being able to spread it more to that third base side, which is what you like to see, especially without there being the shift in place now. You just got to get it past that infield, has been that big hiccup for this Mets team. So they certainly want to upgrade defense. David Stearns has made that clear. Now, why should you be turned off by trading with the Tampa Bay Rays? Well, it's a rhetorical question. It's because it's the Tampa Bay Rays. There's always concern when you deal with a club that is so analytically minded, it's smart, and comes out winning trades more often than not. One trade that pops in my mind right away, even though that they have a plethora of examples, is Isaac Paredes with the Detroit Tigers for Austin Meadows. That has been quite the lopsided trade that just transpired 2 years ago now. Just one of many examples. But why do I have confidence as a Mets fan in the Mets pulling off a deal here and it being a respectable one where both clubs win? Well, David Stearns has had a great amount of success trading with the Tampa Bay Rays during his time at the helm with the Milwaukee Brewers. And one deal that certainly stands out to me is them acquiring Willy Adames from the Rays. That was pretty much a win-win trade at the time too, with the pitchers going the other way. The Brewers do a great job both in their bullpen and rotation every single year and developing that talent, and they've had a willingness to part with some of it when trying to add bats and doing so. So how would the Mets go about a potential trade here has yet to be seen. Whether they will even land him is also a question mark in itself, as multiple teams have interest, and the Mets are weighing the landscape of all outfield options, both small all the way to the top of the list, outside of, Teoscar Hernandez, Lourdes Gurriel. Cody Bellinger is not a name I expect the Mets to be all in on whatsoever, but should it happen, of course, we'll have that discussion. But especially Teoscar Hernandez and not Yuli, Lourdes Gurriel. Yuli is his older brother. Those are guys that keep an eye on this offseason, certainly with the Mets and their interest or lack thereof, what it'll be, because those are the types that are outfielders that will be playing every day, that'll have an impact. And when it comes to Teoscar especially, can bring that power, something that Margot simply does not have. So Mets fans, baseball fans, whoever you're a fan of, I want to know your thoughts in the comments down below to the news that the Mets are showing interest and potential trade here with the Tampa Bay Rays for the veteran outfielder Manuel Margot. Again, cannot emphasize enough, this would look like a fourth outfielder type move unless proven otherwise. And should I be proven otherwise, certainly not something that I would be happy about as a fan, given where he's at in his career and given what the Mets current needs are. But before I get out of here, we do have a huge announcement tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern, barring any changes because of breaking news for some reason. We will be live, myself and Patrick Hennessy from Unhinged Yanks. Unhinged Pat, where you know him from, we worked together in the past. Pat is a great friend of mine, huge Yanks fan, and we are debuting our Bridging the Gap podcast starting tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. We will have both friendly and also not friendly banter analysis every single week, all off season long, everything regarding the New York Metropolitans and the New York Yankees, especially topics that pair the two together, including this discussion with Manuel Margot, because the Yanks have also showed trade interest as well. So be on the lookout for that live show later tonight. If you're a Mets fan, make sure you're chiming in representing. If you're a Yanks fan, yes, for the first time ever, I am encouraging Yankees fans to not only be on the channel, but be interactive in the live chat. So make sure you guys are doing exactly that. Stay tuned. A lot of awesome content is coming. And as always, let's go Mets, baby. Peace out.